Hello everybody and welcome to the streets of Detroit for another round of the Radical Esports Cup in Season 4 of 2025. This is round number 4 as we reach the 1/3 mark of another iRacing season already. We've seen a very, very interesting first 3 races in our 2100 GMT broadcasted split races. Let's have a Gullickson just making his way around qualifying at the moment, as all of the drivers are 15 of them in this session at the moment for what is going to be a very, very bumpy ride. Myself, Ian O'Leary and Ron Mounds will take you through the action, and this is going to be one for a bit of interest, I think. There's the schedule in its entirety. None of the other circuits are quite like this one, Ron.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one for the ages or one for any sort of pain relief medication. This is in a peculiar track. This Belle, for about 30 years, was a host of various IndyCar and IMSA races throughout the years. However, it has fallen out of use in real life, but still here in the sim, it's a host of week number 4 here for the Radical Esports Cup, and a rather intriguing schedule. When we saw it get proposed midway through Season 3, I was rather intrigued to see Belle Isle's edition, along with some other tracks. You look ahead to Le Mans in week 11. Lots of rather stand-out tracks. Mid-Ohio as well, very close to Belle Isle geographically, but some very interesting additions into the season calendar. But I think if there's one that sticks out to me more than anything, it's probably Belle Isle, because this track is, I wouldn't necessarily say inhospitable would be the right word, but race cars usually don't like bumps, and this track has a whole lot of them.
Yeah, it certainly does, no doubt about that. This is the overall season standings, by the way. Andreas Friedrich currently leading those. In his races here, by the way, he's been in the top 5 every time of the 2100 GMT broadcaster split races, so that lines up quite well. Heinz Braun and Peter Ivenu are also in the top 3. George Gonzaga and Paco Caruso, then a bit of a gap back to them to round out the top 5. And not big gaps, actually, for the rest of the top 10. Lucas Vieira, Sully Rutten, Rafa Blanco, Nick Vaughan Roberts, and James Berry, who is in 10th position, last week's winner at Imola, if you weren't with us. On board then with Sully Rutten, who was with us for the first time last week as well. Got himself a 3rd position from the Imola race. He's coming up towards the line at the moment. As these first times come through, the leaderboard will change very, very quickly. Over the line goes Rutten, and he will slot into 3rd, or maybe 4th for the moment. No, it will be 3rd, just in front of Andres Friedrich. Some big names, though, in this field, although it's a slightly reduced grid, Ron, from the normal that we see. 15 of the best we've got in the Radicals. Sully Rutten ranked 10th out of the 15. Shows you everything you need to know about the strength of the field.
Oh yeah, we have got the usual standout stars here in the Radical Esports Cup world, and here is one of them, your reigning champion of Andre Castro, currently qualified in P7 as it stands at the current moment. I said right towards the top end of this show how this track was very consistently part of the IndyCar and kind of road to Indy calendar throughout the 90s, all the way up into the 2000s, 2010s, and of course 2022 was the last time that we saw a race here on the streets of Detroit. But a driver who was part of that Road to Indy ladder for quite some time is Andre Castro. I'm looking through that. I don't believe he's actually raced at this track in real life, but one of the tracks that he does have real life experience at is the Chicago street course, which does have some similar traits to it. Of course, it being a street circuit, very narrow, very bumpy, with a whole lot of different surfaces, with a whole lot of different amounts of grip as you run your way around this track. So look at Andre Castro to maybe impress here this week.
Yeah, you would expect so. Impressive driver, of course, Andre Castro, as we know. As George Gonzaga makes his way down towards turn 3 at the moment, over the bumps just a little bit before getting onto the brakes at what should be one of the big overtaking chances on this lap. You would have thought so. And then into the sort of rest of the first sector, if you like. 27.9 is first sector time. It's right on the money from where it should be compared to some of the others. Andre Castro, the best placed other driver still out there on the circuit at the moment, and he just did a 27.9 with that latest lap time as well. That'll be his last lap time of the session as well. Top 8 currently covered by just half a second. You expect Heinz Braun to get involved in that as well. Jack Dunkovic moves up to 9th place. Kike Ming will be 10th for the moment in a very multicoloured livery. And will come through the final couple of corners in a second. A 1 minute 52 opening sector either is wrong or is very, very slow. So we'll wait and see which one it is in a moment. Currently 1.2 seconds off of Havoc Gullickson, who looks like he's done enough to take pole here today. Let's wait and see. Mingo's over the line. That shouldn't be any better than what's previously been done by looks things, and indeed isn't. 4 drivers, no time on the board yet, and there goes the checkered flag. That shows you just how difficult it is to get lap times in around here at Belle. You can very easily scrape the wall, very easily invalidate your lap time, and it seems that that's happened to almost a third of the field here tonight. Let's have a look then at the starting grid, ready for 17 laps of action here from Belle in Detroit. Sadly, no longer use this circuit, but we're using it here tonight. It will be forever embedded into iRacing. And Havoc Gullickson has taken the pole here first off, with James Barry alongside Peter Eveny and Christoph Lipp then on row 2, with Sully Rettinen and Andres Friedrich sharing row 3. Andre Castro is rounding out the top 5 with George Gonzaga. Jad Dunkovic, the first driver, over a second off of pole, with Kike Ming rounding out the top 10. Ole Gullickson and Heinz Brunn round out row 6. Heinz Brunn without a time. Neither did Jared Burrell, Johannes Hesterman or Menno de Graaf. As I mentioned, Ron, that's 4 drivers out of the 15 with no times. This is going to be a very, very difficult race just to get through, just as it was in terms of qualifying. We'll get to that because the lights look like they're coming on and we're ready to go here from Belle already. The guy's ready to go and we are racing for the first time, and it's Gullickson who leads on the way down in towards turn 1. He wins the race into the right-hander and they all get single file very quickly here across the board. Look at this, all the way down, single file through the top 8 or so, definitely, as they now get down the back straight towards turn 3. Gullickson leads, bit of pressure from behind, a little look down the inside indeed from James Barry, who has a quick peek, but he can't make it work, and Gullickson will lead the field on the opening lap.
And fascinating to see how those racers tackled the standing start here on the streets of Detroit. Of course, here in the Rodco Esports Cup, you always have the standing starts, but it was never a feature of this track when it was used in real life, so rather fascinating to see that super slow runoff down into turns number 1 and 2. Everybody keeping it clean for the most part. A couple of scrapes off into the tire barriers and the concrete walls around here. These racers will find that this is a tough race to manage. We just saw it in qualifying with some of the top running racers that we have seen show up in these races many times before, struggling to even set a lap time in that qualifying session. Really need to keep attention to see who's going to tackle this challenge the best, who's going to be there at the very end. Really the saying to finish first you have to finish, probably going to be the most true here out of any track from this season.
Another peek down the inside there from Heinz Brunn, who's looking for 10th at the moment, but can't quite make it happen on the way towards turn 12. He's quite embedded in the pack for a driver of his quality, but I guess that is what happens when you don't qualify well around Belle. You can get stuck in the pack very quickly, and we'll see just how easy it is to get through the pack here today. George Gonzaga quite close to Jad Dunkovic as well, as they come through turn 2. Now down up towards the braking zone, out of turn 3. Single file all the way down. This is going to be one of those races that is pretty difficult to overtake on.
Oh, gotta be super tough. Even though you've got some very heavy braking zones around this track, you think of turn number 3 at the end of that very long straightaway right at the start of the lap, and we're about to head off into another long flat out blast. Although you're turning throughout most of it, it's the long flat out section between turns number 6 and 7. The braking zone down to 7 can be a good overtaking opportunity if you're feeling particularly brave. However, with this bend off in the road veering to the left as you head your way off into the braking zone for a corner that you can't really see until you're directly at it, can be a little bit tough to try and get a move done through there. Now you got to worry about the tie and twisties. This section here of turn 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, rapid in succession. Really no brakes for these cars, no brakes for the tires as well, and certainly no brakes for the drivers too. Really, overtakes down to turn number 3 going to be that main spot to get it done. That section has seen a lot of changes in real life. They teeter back and forth between the layout that we've run here today and the layout that we see on iRacing, and another one that actually shortcutted that part of the track. But at the end of the long flat out blast down into turn number 3, that will probably be the main and potentially only overtaking opportunity that some of these racers use.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see whether there will be any of those in a moment. Oh, as Gonzaga and Kike Mingo side by side towards turn 3. Finally, a bit of side by side here, and Mingo's round the outside through into ninth position. Gonzaga was close to Dunkovic last time round. But on this occasion, just a lap later, it's Gonzaga being overtaken. Interestingly, though, Heinz Braun still not able to actually take advantage of that from 11th position. He has not been able to make up any places in these first 2.5 laps.
Which is rather surprising, because I think if there's any driver that we usually have outlined as being one of the more aggressive ones here in the Radical Esports Cup, it is Heinz Braun. He just hasn't really been able to make it work, as you can see him giving the bumper to the back of George Gonzaga as he headed his way off through turn number 7 there. So close to making contact as Kike Ming finally got that move done on George Gonzaga to jump his way up into 9th. But rather fascinating to see Heinz Braun not really be able to do anything at the moment. He's just trying to whittle the laps away and maybe hope for some racers a little bit farther up the road to force themselves into an error before he really has to break the elbows out. I'm trying to remember the last time that we saw a street track used here in the Radical Esports Cup, and bearing in mind the fact that I've covered this series pretty much every single season since season 1 of 2023, I can't really think of us running on a track that's anywhere like Belle in any way, so this is truly venturing off into the unknown for these competitors.
Yeah, that certainly is. It's always a difficult circuit, whatever series it's in, but pretty well used across the board is Belle, or at least it was when it was a functioning racetrack, which sadly it is no longer. Way back in 1992 when it was first opened. Unfortunately, 30 years later, no longer used, but you know, we've had Indy cars, sports cars around here, and some other things in between as well. Whoa! Castro has a big slide there on the way towards turn 7, that is. Andre Castro with time now to make up on those in front. Dunkovic and Kike Ming look like they've maybe made contact even, because they are both down back on pit lane now. Janus Hesseman also stopped, but that could well have taken quite a sizable portion of our field out of this race down at turn 7, and Castro very nearly joined them.
Yeah, Andre Castro very lucky to avoid that falling anvil as he headed his way off through turn number 7. Already seeing a little bit of damage on the left-hand side of that race car as well. You can see that BS Competition hybrid car does have some damage as we take a look to see what happened for Jared Dunkovic. Runs wide off through the turn, hits the wall, nothing that Kike Ming could have done in response. Turn 7, super tricky, and it bottlenecks as you head your way off through there as well. That wall on the outside looms ominously over these competitors. It's nearly what happened to Andre Castro. It's exactly what happened to Jared Dunkovic. Unfortunately there for Kike Ming, just an innocent bystander in it all.
It certainly was. And that's going to be long repairs down on pit lane. At least they're both towed, so it's going to take quite a while to see them back again, if indeed they do return over the course of these 17 laps at any stage. Down towards turn 7 again for Evany, trying to get past Andre Castro. Peter Evany has been in the top 5 the last 2 weeks of our broadcasted races here at the Nordschleife and at Imola as well. Put on some good performances, in fact. Slightly outperforming where iRacing thinks he should be based on iRating and those kind of things. In the server, it's number 9 for this session, which is how you can tell that. And Sully Rattanen doing the same as well, although Rattanen is quite lowly rated compared to how he is in these races. Currently in 6th place ahead of Andreas Friedrich in this long group, but at the moment it is looking pretty difficult to overtake as we complete lap 5.
Yeah, to touch on a driver that we saw hit the wall a little bit earlier on, I was going to highlight Jared Dunkovic as one of the top-running AM competitors in the Radical Americas Championship that you can catch sporadically on Sundays here on RaceSpot TV. Unfortunate to see him now officially be out of this race after an early incident, and that will be the next round of the calendar. And unfortunately, I will not be present for that broadcast. Sadly, first time I've had to miss out on one of those shows this year, in fact. But however, it's going to be a challenging race for those drivers in the Americas Championship. Nice to see Jared Dunkovic, as he usually does, get a little bit of experience here in the Radical Esports Cup. One similarity between the official series and those Radical Sim Racing League events, whether it be the European or Americas Championship, run on the exact same tracks, of course, depending on what week it is for the league events. They run on whatever track the officials are running at that week, and run fixed setups as well in that series as well. And many of the drivers that you see up and down the field week in and week out here on the Radical Esports Cup and these 2100 GMT broadcasted races are the same drivers that you see as standout stars in the European and America's Championship as they race their way off into the 2025 Radical World Finals that you will also be able to catch here on the RaceBot TV YouTube channel. But unfortunate for Dunkovic, again, involved in a bit of drama. Seat time is super important around a street track. Around all racetracks, it's important, but on a street track, you can really crank up that importance level quite a lot.
So much Radical racing has come, by the way, in the remainder of 2025. It is the sort of high point of the season, if you like, for the action in those series. Well, coming in November with the World Final qualifying event and then the finals themselves. So if you enjoy your SR10 racing, then make sure you stick around on RaceBot TV for all of that. This is Andres Friedrich on the back of Sully Räikkönen, a two-car battle here for 6th position. Friedrich has been here every week so far in this season of our broadcasted racing. He's been in the top 5 each time as well. 4th in the week 1, 5th in week 2, 2nd last week at Imola, when it was James Barry who took the victory by just under 2 seconds on that occasion. Friedrich is not going to win here today, I wouldn't imagine, because he is stuck in traffic and is going to remain the case. I always expected it to be difficult to overtake round here, but I didn't quite expect it to be to this extent difficult to make a pass.
Yeah, we were expecting it to be a real tough task for these competitors to get the moves done, just period. Let alone getting them done clean, just be able to get the moves done in the first place. It was going to be a tough task for these competitors, and really proving to be that way, as we may have just jinxed it. It's Andre Castro and Christoph Lipp swapped spots as they headed their way down the start-finish stretch into turn number 1 and 2. I wonder if Christoph Lipp said, you know what, I'm going to take the high road here. Andre, there we go. I'll let you do that. You have your own little race. I'm just going to try and keep it on the road. I think that may have been what happened, but hey, we jinxed an overtake into existence for the final podium spot in the midst of all that as well. So pretty consequential overtake from Castro.
Let's have a look at the move. Andre Castro just slipping straight through that. It's almost got the look of a driver with a slowdown as Christoph Lipp, but obviously doesn't. Because where are you going to get one of those around here? But very strange at the moment, Christoph Lipp, got to say, as now he's having to defend from Peter Evendy. Just wonder whether he's touched the wall somewhere, Christoph Lipp, at the moment, because he is struggling for speed. Last lap was a 25.1, slowest of anyone inside the top 5. Maybe he has touched the wall somewhere and gotten a bit of damage, because he's not getting any quicker either. It seems that something is holding him back. Not entirely sure what it is at the moment.
I'm going to look through to try and figure out if there may have been a little bit of extracurricular drama there for Christoph Lipp, a very quick competitor here in these SR10s, a past winner of the Radical World Finals, as there you can see the swaparoo down off into turn number 1. Something has got to be up with Christoph Lipp's car. I'm just going to read through some of the lap times that he has set as of late. Was looking pretty all right, firmly in the 124s, 124.5 for the first couple of laps. Then was able to clock in a heater on lap number 4 with a 124.0, but ever since lap 6, when he set a 124.2, he's been firmly in the 125s at a 125.1 on lap 7 and a 125.4 on lap 8. So something is clearly amiss with that car of Christoph Lipp. Now, I'm not sure if it's just any sort of damage on that race car. Maybe he's accumulated a decent amount of incident points, which you can do easily here on a street circuit. And a reminder, folks, this isn't a league race that we cover here every single Friday on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. This is the official Radical Esports Cup series, and you have the official rules, you have the official incident counts, as well as 17x if you want to pick up a penalty, and 24x if you want to get DQ'd. Christoph Lipp looking to try and avoid either of those. I wonder if that's the reason why he's had to take it easy. If not for incidents, maybe it's for incident points.
True. I just don't think he would bring his pace back this much. Last time round he was slowest of the top 11. This feels like a bit extreme to me, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that, as Friedrich also on the back of Sully Ratten, and again here continues to try and make his pass. Breaks a little bit late towards turn 1. He's got a better line through turn 2 now. Will this allow the exit that he's looking for? Oh, he's got a bit of a slide on. If he had a better exit, he'd have a chance at turn 3, but he doesn't because of that slide, unless he wants to have a lunge, which he doesn't fancy. And I don't blame him on the way towards this right-angled right-hander. And Friedrich just stuck in traffic at the moment, staring a first outside of the top 5 finish in one of our races this season in the face with a current 7th place. If he takes Christoph Lipp's position sort of as a given here, then he still needs to get past Rattanen to keep this run of top 5s going.
And as we continue to see the racing out there on the racetrack, I do want to officially wrap up the story, or wrap up for now, involving Christoph Lipp. I looked back and I saw where he hit the wall. It was wall contact, and it was heading off through turn number 12, ran wide at the apex, and smacked the outside concrete barrier pretty hard with the left-hand side. It was mainly a front-end hit. I gotta imagine, I mean, this is not a super aerodynamic racetrack. Most of the turns that you have are rather slow speed. You do have some high-speed turns, though, mainly in the form of turn number 1 and 2, so that could slow him down a decent amount. But I think he's either got to have some suspension damage, or his car must be so unbelievably slow. Adding down some of the flat-out blasts around this racetrack, that's really starting to hurt him out quite a lot. That was the point of contact, though. That's where he picked up the damage, and ever since then, Christoph Lipp has just been losing oodles and oodles of time. As I ride on board with him in the live shot, from my perspective, I can see maybe a little bit of left hand down from him from my end, looking at it in the sim independently from what's going out on the broadcast. That had to have been what caused it, because I'm looking at Christoph Lipp's car, and it looks like it's handling like a trash bag full of mango pulp sliding down a concrete flight of stairs.
It just feels to me like it is more handling rather than straight line speed, but I'm not looking at the data at the moment myself, just watching him. It looks like that. As Sully Rattanen realises that, I think, and wanted to get through before this fountain section, if I can even call it that. I sort of compare it to the Long Beach fountain section. It doesn't even have a fountain at all on the inside of it. It just looks like it. He's wanted to get through before this bit, couldn't do it, and now he's stuck behind him throughout. Shouldn't be too much of a worry unless Friedrich gets past him. In fact, he could use that Lipp to distance Friedrich a little bit if he's clever with this little bit of on-track passing that he's about to do out of the final corner, and maybe towards turn 1 Rattanen's going to do it. But if he does it too early, then Friedrich's just going to be invited to do the same. He's going to do it into turn 1 anyway. He's only worrying about getting through himself, and no, not able to. Friedrich just hangs back. He's going to go for the... And now, can he keep it without the slide this time? Yes, he can. Oh, that's much better. That's what he was hoping for last lap. He might go try to take both in one go. 3 wide. Here we go. In towards turn 3. Andres Friedrich looking to rescue that top 5 position. Christoph Lipp doesn't want any part of this as Rattanen and Friedrich go side by side, and he can't do it. It's a good run round the outside from Rattanen, who in the end got the space from Lipp to go properly to the outside, get that proper run, and he keeps 5th position ahead of Andres Friedrich. But that was a 3 wide moment that you do not see very often at this circuit.
Yeah, you don't usually see 3 wide racing, but it all got set up when we saw Sully Rainen go for that move on Christoph Lipp down off into turn number 1 and 2. That section overtaking into there, it's pretty much just an impossibility. You can't even say, oh, it's tricky. Nope, it's pretty much as close as you can get to being impossible. But he tried to make it work. It slowed the both of them down, and in the midst of all of that, Andres Friedrich was smelling blood in the water, wasn't able to get that 2-for-1 deal, but Christoph Lipp got to lose 2 spots in 1 shot. And he's now got to worry about his compatriot of Heinz Braun. He's now about 2 seconds behind Lipp, and closing up that gap more and more as the laps and the time continues to fall away from this race, as we saw that battling a little bit farther behind for that final spot inside the top 5. We got a battle for the final 2 spots on the podium between Barry and Castro.
Gullickson looks clear at the moment, but Barry is having to defend last week's winner on the inside of Andre Castro, who can't quite get through that time round in towards turn 3. He's quite up the curve. Oh, and Barry just hits the wall slightly. This is big defending from Barry. I'm not sure why he's taking such defensive lines into all of these corners, but he is. And Andre Castro is going to try and take advantage of that. Has he got a good enough run out of turn 6? I don't think so, because Barry's just going to weave around the straight anyway and keep him behind that way. 4 laps to go it will be at the line, and suddenly James Barry looking a lot more vulnerable than I was expecting here.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to see this from Barry. He is having to claw onto that spot as desperately as he can, as Andre Castro just hounding the back of them as they head their way off through what you call the fountain section there, Ewan. That technically can work since the Belle Isle fountain is not too terribly far behind some of the grandstands through there, but we're looking at a grandstand battle as we get closer and closer to the end of this race. Barry trying to find any way in the book to hold on to that spot. Castro trying to find any way in the book to get that spot. Again, turn 3 and that long flat app list leading up to it, and these draft heavy SR10s going to be that spot, but Castro just needs to get a good enough run over the crest, over the bridge, out of 2 and into the straightaway. Here we go.
Is there going to be another chance here? Barry was super defensive last time, and Castro doesn't have a chance really to get down the inside at all. It's a strange defensive line he's taking. Castro will try and get the exit though, and that's exactly what you open yourself up to. Castro on the inside by turn 4, and they're going to run side by side through the rest of this first sector, it looks like. Outside again for Castro this time. Make sure there's no contact, otherwise it will be disastrous for both. He'll get through, will he? Into second position will Andre Castro, and that's a very nice pass indeed. But why James Barry all of a sudden has lost so much speed and he's suddenly feeling so defensive is a bit of a mystery, just as much as the one of Christoph Lipp here. There doesn't seem to be any obvious signs for either of them, but Barry and Lipp both suddenly struggling here, and they could soon both be off the podium.
Meanwhile, as that's going on, Havard Gullikson is just driving off into the sunset. This has been a brilliant race from him, and a nice comeback for that IGL Coatings team. We saw last time out at Imola, I don't believe any of the IGL Coatings drivers were represented in that 2100 GMT top split broadcasted race. But nice to see Gullikson, a champion from the past here in the Esports Cup, won in season 1 of 2025, and looking at a good run here in season number 4. Gullikson holds on to a very comfortable gap as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, and looking to keep a streak going of 4 different race winners in the first 4 weeks of this season. Had Andre Castro get the job done at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Guillaume Barrand winning at the Nürburgring, and James Barry last time out, your winner at Imola, winning in this series for the first time in quite some time. Looks like Gullikson going to keep that streak going, very similar to what we saw at the start of season 3, in fact, where we had 6 different winners in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary start last season, that's for sure. So far this season, it's Castro, Guillaume Barrand and James Barry who have taken the 3 victories, week 1, week 2, week 3 in order. Looks like we are going to get a 4th different to start this one as well, which is good. Certainly good for the neutral anyway. As Brighton again stays in front of Anders Friedrich, who will continue to be frustrated. I think it's not an overstretch to say that, you know, had there not been any damage to Christoph Lipp or James Barry, the qualifying positions and the positions after lap number 1 would have been where they'd have finished, to be honest, because it's been so difficult so far.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I feel like when we go off into those discussions, we have to remember that under some different circumstances, it's like the butterfly effect, you know? You try and change something from your past, you step on a crunchy leaf in the middle of fall, and next thing you know, you're chasing dinosaurs when you come back into the modern day. But I feel like the drivers would probably tackle this race a little bit differently had there been less drama for some other racers. The drama and the falling anvils that came along with it will probably come down on some other competitors, but it has been a very tricky race for these competitors. We've expected some drama with the small confines around this racetrack, and we most certainly have gotten it, but in terms of the overtakes, it's a little bit different than some of the other tracks that we've had here in the Radical Esports Cup. I mean, you think of Spa, gosh, those races, I could best compare them to being like a NASCAR-style super speedway race. They're just absolutely insane. Here, on the other hand, these racers have to be a bit more concise in the way they go about the racing. Try and get the moves done as quickly as you possibly can, and make sure you stay at the barriers. They're not cuddly like a teddy bear.
Well, there's only one more lap after this one for Friedrich to do it now. He's going to be incredibly frustrated, I would imagine. It's a very difficult situation to be in here, just stuck behind somebody else like this with very little chances to come through. You get the feeling that 3-wide moment we saw when they were passing Lipp might have been his best opportunity in hindsight. And he did try and take it. He did pretty much all he could to take it, in fact, but doesn't look like it's going to be enough in the end as the white flag waves here from Belle tonight. Resonant will lead him around, and he's got a better line through two again. He needs to do this without a slide, Friedrich. Oh, he's pushing hard, isn't he? He just touches the wall there. Rutzinen knows the severity of this situation now. He weaves around from right to left. Friedrich's going to throw everything out this because it's the last lap. Outside line, he's going to do what Rutzinen did to him a few laps ago. Is he still alongside? Can he continue to disrupt the line? Just about. Rutzinen's disrupted on the way toward 4. Friedrich will have another look to the outside at 5. He's got to stay on this line. He's got to stay getting undercuts on him and trying to get past him any which way he can. He tried to dive down the inside there, and it might be it now. Rutzinen might well have just held off this attack here as they come through turn 6. I don't think Friedrich's close enough. It will have to be a really big dive in towards turn 7 and a very narrow corner if he wants to get this done, and no, he can't. It was a good effort in the end, but I don't think he's going to manage it here as they come through the final corners of this race. Seconds out front, Harvard Gullikson is going to come through the final couple of turns to win for the first time in season 4 of 2025 in these 2100 GMT broadcasted sprint races. It's another Radical Esports Cup victory to Harvard Gullikson, who wins by nearly 6 seconds in the end. Dominant performance in qualifying. Dominant even more so in the race. Castro and Barry will be on the podium with him. Will Friedrich get past Rutzinen on the run to the line? It's going to be very close. Oh, it's going to be incredibly close. But across the line came too soon. Suddenly Rutzinen hangs on. Friedrich gave it absolutely everything at the end, though.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't even register about this track, with a long run out of turn number 13, which is basically the final corner around this place. Sure, you've got the kink of turn number 14, but nobody really counts that. You do have a good opportunity to actually get a move done to run up to the line. That would have been some gutsy stuff. That would have been absolutely fantastic if we saw those drivers side by side, covered by a matter of thousands after a race like this. I mean, they're still very close, don't get me wrong. It was only 65 thousandths of a second between those two competitors after 17 laps here at Belle Isle. Well done, though, to Havard Gullikson, withstanding the challenge and pretty much leading from lights to flag. That is a brilliant performance, driving off into the sunset and keeping it clean as well here at Belle Isle. Well done to Gullikson, and well done to all of those racers who made it to the finish. That is not a mean feat here.
That certainly isn't. An impressive job from everybody, but more so for Harvard Gullikson, who wins this race tonight by 6 seconds in front of Andre Castro and James Barry on the podium. Pitcher Evenew, quite race in 4th position here tonight, but continues his run of top 5 finishes, which now extends to 3 weeks in a row. Sully Rutzinen rounds out the top 5 just in front of Friedrich in the battle of the race. Heinz Brunn, Christoph Lipp, George Gonzaga and Gerard Burrell round out the top 10. Burrell's first points of the season, I think. First top 10 of the season in our races. Alec Gullikson, Manu de Graaf and Janus Hesterman, the last drivers to finish. Kike Ming and Jarek Dunkovic, the only 2 to retire. Maybe that's one of the surprising elements of the day. That was the only crash pretty much that we saw. A couple of taps on the wall, especially for Lipp, who seemed to have damage. Christoph Lipp in his first race this season with us. But, it was a clean race apart from that, which is very, very impressive. Let's chat to Harvard Gullikson about it, though, shall we? Who takes the victory here tonight from Belle Isle. Harvard, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on such a dominant victory tonight. Was this a circuit you were expecting to go quite as well as you did at?
No, actually not, but I practiced more for this race than the other race I have done, and I like the track because on this track you can feel the car. It's more grippy, so for me, that's an old man, it's better.
It's certainly a very unique circuit. I mean, you didn't have to do much defending in the end, but and indeed overtaking. But I'm sure you've done races here in the past and maybe this week as well. Just what is the situation in terms of defending positions here and overtaking as well? Because we found it, or saw a lot of people find it very difficult here tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. This was my first race this week, so luckily I didn't have to defend much because the other guys battled behind me. So I could race my own pace and take no risk. The last lap was a bit faster than the others, but I'm happy, and I wish Castro had qualified a bit better, then we could fight more, but I'm not complaining about P1.
No, I can imagine. Congratulations on the win tonight, Harvard, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That's Javier Gullikson chatting to us at the end here tonight from Belle. As I say, Ron, it was pretty difficult to overtake, as it turned out. Always was going to be. But in the end, when you have to work so hard for the passes, Andreas Friedrich at the end there showing it could be done, and it's a very rewarding battle once it comes along. So, you don't mind a circuit where it's a little bit more difficult from time to time.
Yeah, you gotta have that. The way that I always like to describe it, if you're looking for a gin and tonic, you can't just have gin in there. You need to have that tonic water to mix it up. A perfect calendar here in a series needs to have a mix of very draft-heavy racetracks. You look at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Spa, many others, Hockenheimring, Monza a little bit later, Watkins Glen as well, and certainly Le Mans and Road Atlanta to bring this season to a close. But here in the first half, we do have those tight and twisty tracks that really test these drivers' patience and test their skills. Always love to see a diverse calendar. We have certainly got that here in season 4 as we look ahead in the weeks that we have coming up before the end of 2025. We've got a fantastic schedule for sure.
Absolutely, and we'll hopefully see Andre Castro a little bit more throughout. Let's chat to him briefly before we wrap tonight. Andre, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Second place in the end as you just fought through on James Barry towards the finish. Just tell us about that battle between the two of you and how you managed to get past in the later laps.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. It was good to be back, after a couple of weeks off, and it was good with James. I mean, I was able to kind of reel him in slowly, and then, he gave me a lot of room. I mean, he was defending a lot, and then just managed to kind of get a nose in after I guess you could say the third corner, and he gave me some good room there, and we were able to run side by side. So thanks to him for running respectfully, and definitely kept me on my toes to the end. Congrats to Havard. Obviously, he had really good pace. I think I was kind of on for almost pole, and the last sector of the second lap, I just kind of messed it up a bit and tried to make up and go for broken and just tap the wall on the end of the final corner. So yeah, starting 7th, it's frustrating on a street circuit to have to recover from that, but by turn 2, I think I was 5th, and then just kind of picking off one by one. But it would have been a good battle, I think. I don't know how it would have worked out with Havard if I had qualified up front, but guess we'll never know. But yeah, it was good to be back and good to have a solid run after I qualified 7th. I was a bit worried, so it was not a bad way to end up the day.
I was going to ask you actually about that. No, obviously it's hard to say, but Havard, as interestingly, said the same thing to us, that he wishes you'd qualified a bit higher up the field to actually have a challenge as well. But do you think in the end that it would have been probably just too difficult to actually get past because of the nature of this circuit, or would it have been quite close?
Well, first of all, I think maybe a small part of him wanted me to qualify higher, but I'm pretty sure he's happy that I did not. I would have been happy, to win by 6 seconds. So, but for sure, we had some good battles in the past, and I don't know. I mean, you saw with James, it was definitely, I started 7th and I was able to make up spots, so it would have been definitely tight. It's just, he had a really, really good pace. So you never, it's hard to say, but with the draft these cars have, it makes it, it's still difficult to make a pass, but it's possible at a track like this, whereas some other cars it might not be so possible. So I have no idea, but of course it ended up the way it ended up, and I'm just going to next week, and I don't even know what track we're going to, but I hope to be there and continue the fight.
We'll be at Algarve next week, and hopefully we'll see you there. But Andre, thanks for chatting to us as always, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks very much. That's Andre Castro, who finishes in second place tonight, as he mentioned, first week since 2 weeks. And as we mentioned just there, the next race is from the Algarve. We'll be back, as always, same time, same place, here on the iRacing YouTube channel, and indeed the RaceBot TV YouTube channel as well with that race. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight to this fourth round of the Radical Esports Cup in Season 4 of 2025. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds with Hugo Luis behind the cameras of this broadcast. We'll see you again in 1 week's time from the Algarve for the next instalment of the Radical Esports Cup. But from all of us now from Detroit, it's goodbye.